Imagine waking up and realizing the coin that everyone loves to trash talk just made your future self filthy rich. Stick around because what I'm about to tell you might yank XRP from the meh pile straight into your retirement plan. Okay, so picture this, right? I'm scrolling through X at 2 a.m. You know, that dangerous hour when every crypto chart looks like a kind of ricochet test and pops up Chad's tweet. Now here's basically flexing, saying, remember when 5 XRP cost $1? Well, now it's $12 and we're only getting started. Now my first reaction, sure Chad, and I'm secretly Batman, but then I actually run the math and think back to December 2020, right? This is peak lawsuit panic, Coinbase delisting, and everyone's dumping tokens like they're hot potatoes. Now XRP was 20 cents. 20 cents. I could have grabbed a coffee and pocketed 5 tokens for less than the tip. Fast forward to today and those 5 tokens set you back roughly for $12, right? All because XRP is lounging at around $2.35 each, a 1,190% climb. Now suddenly, Chad's kind of chest thumping, it doesn't sound so crazy. Now, here's the part that kind of glued my eyeballs to the screen. Chad's betting on a 100-fold move in the not too distant future. So do the math. 20, or at least I should say $2.35 times 100 is kind of $235 per coin. That's a $15 trillion market cap, bigger than Apple, Microsoft, 𝗖𝗢𝗠𝗪𝗀𝗃 mashed together. Now my caffeinated fried brain instantly kind of splits into 2 voices. One whispers, moon mission, pack your bags. And the other, bro, even Tesla's stock on a rocket couldn't pull that off overnight. So I dig in. First, let's rewind to why XRP's even still alive after the SEC decided to play whack-a-mole back in 2020. Well, Ripple got sued for allegedly selling unregistered securities. Exchanges, they panicked, and the price fell off a cliff. Now, while everyone else kind of rage quit, a handful of stubborn holders, myself included, kept dollar cost averaging, right? Chanting utility, not hype. Like crypto monks. Now fast forward 4 years and those monks are sitting on nearly 12 times gains, sipping karmic lattes. Now the lesson number 1 here, right? Sometimes the best gains are forged in the fear, uncertainty and doubt, FUD. But here is the sticky question. The thing that I kept kind of turning over like a Rubik's Cube. Can lightning really strike twice or again, right? Because going from 20 cents to $2 is one thing, but going from $2 to 235 is a whole different beast. So to answer that, I did what any kind of self-respecting night owl degen does. I opened way too many tabs. Tab 1, historical blowups, right? Bitcoin 100x'd between 2013 and 2017. Ethereum roughly 2000x if you roll back to the ICO price. So a 100x isn't unprecedented. It's just, rarefied air, if you will. Tab 2. Utility. Ripple's on-demand liquidity corridors are now slinging billions in cross-border payments. Banks in Asia, money transfer firms in, Latin America, and even tiny fintech startups in Africa are quietly plugging XRP into their plumbing because it moves cash in 4 seconds for a fraction of a penny. Now, if adoption keeps snowballing, higher velocity could, in theory, crank demand. Tab 3 is supply. Unlike Dogecoin's infinite facet, XRP's max supply is baked into the ledger, 100 billion coins, with Ripple's escrowing big chunks every single month. So even if supply unlocks feel heavy, $15 trillion, or at least 15 trillion, it kind of sounds less nutty when you realize that the global payments market hovers around 150 trillion annually. So capturing 10% of that pie suddenly looks like, sci-fi, right? Or doesn't look like sci-fi, I should say. Then I land on tab 4 and meet our friendly neighborhood skeptics. Forex trader Tony SV drops a blunt tweet. XRP will nether 100x. Let's bet, name the amount, name the date. So if you have to kind of respect, I guess, the bravo, if you will, in this particular tweet. Now, he basically slams his chips on the table and dared Chad to, well, match him. Then you've got, Satoshi, a name that already kind of screams memes, basically saying that XRP will only cost $235 when a can of soda costs $100. The translation: inflation could make big shiny numbers feel hollow if purchasing power slides in lockstep. So it's kind of the old kind of notes, right? Trillion mark notes that can't buy a loaf of bread argument. So who's right then, right? For every sky-high forecast, like Chainsley's $235 in 15 years, you've got Telegon waving a longer-term game flag, right? Sure, maybe, but circle 2050 on your calendar, kind of scenario. Now, honestly, right, the timeline does matter here because, yeah, if I have to wait 25 years, my patience and my knees may not hold out. If it's 15, my hair might still have some color to it. If it's 5, well, pass me the island brochures. And so at this point, I needed a sanity anchor. So I toggled my portfolio tracker and remembered my own XRP journey. I bought my first bag in 2017 at around 30 cents. I rode it to $3, panicked, sold half, felt like a genius, then watched it crash back down to 25 cents and felt like a clown. It's a classic kind of round trip ticket, right? But the roller coaster taught me 2 things. 1, narratives change faster than crypto Twitter's attention span. 2, community conviction can carry a token through legal storms, exchange bans, and late-night meme wars. Now, XRP's tribe didn't just hodl, right? They envisioned, right? They lobbied, congressional reps, they dissected court filings, and they dreamt up price models that made Wall Street analysts blush. Now, you may sneer, but passion fuels adoption here. So people build where there's fire. Now, we need to layer in the macro wins because ignoring them is kind of like ignoring the weather before a beach day, right? You've got central banks experimenting with digital currencies, and guess who keeps popping up in pilots from Japan to Colombia? Yep, that's Ripple's technology. Now, every central bank that kicks the XRP tires adds one more potential use case. Pretend just 5 big economies, flip the switch on XRP-powered settlement rails. Trillions of dollars flow, could actually run through the ledger weekly. Velocity up, friction down, price, well, will do the supply-demand tango. Still, the elephant breakdancing in the room is that $15 trillion market cap. It's bigger than every single crypto combined at today's values. Could the whole market grow enough that XRP's slice looks reasonable? Quite maybe, yeah. Now we're potentially staring at tokenized securities, real-world assets, and a generation of gamers earning digital bread in the metaverse. So if those worlds merge, a $15 trillion pie might not be that as kind of outlandish as it may feel tonight, right? But if we think back to 1997, a $1 trillion company, it sounded like sci-fi. Now Apple toggles between $2.5 and $3 trillion like flipping on a light switch. But let me go ahead and zoom in on the gritty challenge that kept me kind of pacing my kitchen in my socks. Timing anxiety, right? It's one thing to believe in 100x, right? It's another to actually hold through the gut-punching dips without kind of rage selling at, let's say, 49 cents, right? Just imagine the SEC files an appeal or another exchange kind of fumbles custody and sends the market skidding 30% in a day, right? Do you still believe? That's the kind of crucial kind of idea here. That's exactly why I kept a mental kind of list of battle strategies, right? Partial profit taking, stop loss cushions below kind of support levels, and, you know, a flask of patience when market Twitter mobs swing bearish. And speaking of patience, if you're hungry for day-to-day banter, chart callouts, and memes sharp enough to slice, you know, samurai, then jump into our free crypto Discord server. There's a link chilling in the description down below. We've got a channel for pretty much most things, including like being zen, and for when you need therapy after 20% wick, right? And of course, we've got other channels for moon math and all sorts of different things where the calculations and calculators kind of run hotter than my laptop fans. Why not check it out? Check the link in the description. And since we're dishing out survival tools, let me talk about trading venues. And a bunch of us recently shifted some size over to Blowfin. Now they're the kind of new kid on the block with surprisingly slick order books, and the fees are friendlier than my Labrador. Now, if you want to kind of test drive leverage or just scoop spot buys without feeling fee gouged, hit the Blowfin link in the description down below. And who knows, maybe you'll be market buying, you know, that kind of 100th XRP before the next candle even prints. All right, so let's circle back to Chad's shock and awe prediction then, right? And here's kind of where the plot twists and reaches the high wire moment, right? Imagine headlines blaring, right? Ripple settles with SEC, XRP deemed commodity, right? Instantly, US exchanges relist, ETFs spin up, banks get regulatory green lights, and FOMO ignites faster than dry pine needles. Now, Binance's ticker melts, Coinbase's app freezes, and your dentist asks you whether it's too late to buy in. And in that instant, the liquidity dam cracks, orders stack, shorts scramble, and XRP rockets like a Mentos in cola experiment. So could that be the avalanche that powers a 100x over a kind of manic 12-month run? Stranger things have happened, so ask anyone who's kind of watched GameStop go parabolic while sipping coffee in January of 2021. Yet, we must not ignore Mr. Satoshi, right? And that inflation jab, right? If sodas do cost $100 by then, then $235 XRP could feel like monopoly money. Purchasing power is a real metric. So here's a mental trick, right? Instead of just eyeing the kind of sticker price, track how many Tesla Roadsters or, you know, Hawaii vacations your bag can actually buy. If that number rises, then you're winning. If it's flat, welcome to the hamster wheel. Now, before I kind of wrap up today's video, let me distill the kind of noisy kind of Twitter threads, you know, the fevered dream charts and coffee-stained notepads with a bite-sized takeaways. First, XRP's already served a 12x entry since December 2020, right? Anybody who kept calling it dead clearly missed the resurrection party. Second, a 100x could catapult the token to $235 and, you know, crown RippleNet as a heavyweight in global settlements. Possible, but not pocket change easy. Third, right, timelines are the wild card. 15 years, plausible. 5 years requires a regulatory miracle, massive utility surge, and maybe some pixel dust. Tomorrow? Well, probably only in your fever dreams. Fourth, skeptics, they are not villains here, right? They're just as essential as moon boys and moon boy math, right? They keep predictions grounded, so we don't mortgage grandma's house chasing, you know, unicorns. And then finally, right, whether you're a believer, a doubter, or a popcorn munchkin spectator, the next chapter of XRP saga will be written in the courtroom verdicts, the central bank pilot leaks, and 100,000 tiny transactions zipping across borders every single minute. So, am I betting my life savings on a 100x? No, right? But I did set aside a moon bag I can forget in a hardware wallet, just in case Chad's crystal ball is onto something. Worst case scenario, I treat myself to a fancy soda someday. Best case, I'm buying the vending machine.